Well, it's Thursday, and that means it's time for Caroline Heldman, professor of critical theory and social justice at Occidental College. She's here to break down the week's political headlines. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning, Giselle. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday to you. Let's start with the Russian buildup at the Ukraine border. The U.S. is accusing Putin of lying, saying the Russians are not withdrawing as they're saying, and that they're escalating troop buildup and getting ready for war. What is going on here?
Well, the U.S. and NATO are saying that 7,000 new troops have been sent to the region, bringing the total to around 150,000. The day after Putin said he was withdrawing troops. So classic Putin during diplomacy, trying to spread chaos by being dishonest about what is happening in the region. It doesn't take much, satellite footage to know who's coming and going. So it's hard to say what is happening here, but the White House and NATO are preparing for the worst. Unclear whether Putin plans to invade or whether he's just using this to remain relevant on the world stage.
Well, the consequences here at home could be pretty grave for us. Gas prices, other things. What's at stake?
Well, what's at stake is certainly any economic impacts politically in terms of the midterm elections. And of course, it would profoundly affect everyday Americans. At the end of the day, the people who are going to bear the biggest brunt, of course, would be Ukrainians. It would take a matter of days for Putin to take the capital, Kyiv, but then he would have to rule 40 million Ukrainians who don't want him there, and it would be an extended conflict. So I think there are a lot of disincentives for Putin here.
Well, Congress has tough words for Putin, but can't agree on sanctions, which seems to be our only leverage, that and the gas pipeline in Germany. So what has to get done to all of us be on the same page?
Well, what we're seeing, Giselle, is NATO is coming together in a way that they simply have not, trying to prevent, a ground war, a large ground war in Europe that we haven't seen since 1945. So they plan to put pressure by freezing Russian oligarch assets, by kicking Russia out of SWIFT, which is an international money exchange, which would make it economically difficult for them. They would also be global pariahs, in addition, of course, to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline being in jeopardy. So there are a lot of points of economic pressure that NATO and the United States can bring into play.
Well, keep us posted as the week goes on this one. All right, let's talk about Donald Trump. His legal woes just got worse. His accounting firm jumping ship, saying the last 10 years' worth of numbers are not reliable. Is this the straw, Caroline, that breaks his financial apparatus finally wide open?
It may well be, Giselle. This is really big news. It comes at a time when Donald Trump and his family have both criminal and civil cases, investigations open in New York. And in fact, that's the context for this. Mazars USA, who have been filing the Trump tax documents for the last decade, did their own internal investigation and now say they cannot stand by those documents. So this is very damning news for the Trump organization.
And how serious is it, the flushing of, these classified documents potentially in the toilet at the White House and taking other classified papers to Mar-a-Lago? The DOJ may get involved. What do you think is at stake here?
Well, Donald Trump bent and broke a lot of rules when he was in office. We can all agree to that, whether you liked him, his political stances or not. Most of those rules were not written into law, but these are. You cannot store top secret documents at Mar-a-Lago, that are insecure. You can't eat top classified documents. The problem, of course, is proving that those documents were classified or government documents versus private documents. Also proving that Donald Trump was responsible for the way in which these were stored. So it's a tough case to make, but there are actually laws here that come into play with Donald Trump's bending of these particular rules.
Yeah, and in the midst of all this, there's this new poll that shows half of Republicans say they want to move on from the elector fraud claims, the big lie. Even Lindsey Graham, Caroline, saying that, if the GOP keeps focusing on the past, it could hurt the party in the midterms. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. This is really smart political strategy for Lindsey Graham and the Republicans and Mitch McConnell, who are trying to move past the big lie, because you don't actually win elections by talking about the past. You win elections by talking about what you're going to do in the future. You can do both, but you really need to talk about what your party stands for, not just what it stands against if you want to win in the midterms.
All right. I have such limited time, but I think I'm going to ask you about this, the mayor's race. Rick Caruso throwing his hat into the ring. It's going to be a crowded race, and it looks like it could get ugly. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's going to be a very ugly race. You have folks on the left, you have folks in the center, Caruso, of course, wanting more police and being against defunding them. So we're going to see some ideological fights. And I would expect this will be a very exciting race that we haven't, in the likes of which we haven't seen in a couple decades here in LA.
And really quickly, stateside, hearing Dianne Feinstein's approval ratings hit an all-time low, and the vice president is also plagued with negative headlines. Her poll numbers also underwater. What do you think that tells us?
I think Dianne Feinstein might reconsider running in 2024. At 88 years old, with the largest poll gap we've seen, she's been out of step with the most liberal wing of the Democratic Party in the state for quite some time, but we have not seen a 19-point underwater gap throughout her career. So this likely signals that she will not run again.
Boy, as I've said throughout the years with you, never a dull moment in politics, right? Caroline Heldman, thank you as always for every Thursday coming on with your insight and wisdom. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, Giselle.
Thank you so much.